Good morning, my creative friends. Welcome to Painting in Your PJs live with Minette. I am woke up a little bit early this morning and getting myself going here and getting ready. I have been thinking so much the last 2 days about this particular episode, and I'm super excited to be here with all of you today. So, welcome to Painting in Your PJs with Minette. If you're brand new, I am delighted that you're here. Painting in Your PJs is all about using art as a creative practice for self discovery and personal growth. And in honor of Women's History Month, all month long here, on the channel on Tuesdays and Thursdays, we're doing portraits of famous women artists and creatives, and we've compiled a list of 50 of those women for you. You can download that printable list for $5. There's a link in the description of the video. This helps support our channel. Plus, it'll just provide a lot of information and inspiration. And we've created kind of a beautiful workbook here with information about the artist, information to capture, do some journaling and writing, and a little bit about who that artist was. And there's singers, writers, photographers, dancers from the 19th and 20th century. And I'm just sort of randomly popping around the book, kind of thinking about who do I want to know more about? And there's quite a few that I know a lot about, and then there's quite a few I know nothing about at all. Good morning, Bonnie, and good morning, Judy. And this morning, I started a couple of days ago really looking into the life of Nina Simone. So today we're going to work with the artist Nina Simone, look at some of the lyrics of a couple of her songs. And this was the final image that I picked. It's not my intention to have all the images be black and white, but Georgia O'Keeffe, Nina Simone, when they were living and working, there was a lot of black and white photography. And the photos of her are beautiful and dramatic. And I picked three different ones, and they're probably all going to end up in an envelope in my journal for inspiration. This is going to be the painting inspiration for today, and I'll say more about that. I thought I had, there it is. I really love this one of her, and I have about 15 different ideas of ways to approach painting Nina Simone. There's so much to love about her and her music. Two of her most famous songs are Feeling Good and oh, you're so sweet, Barbara. Welcome, welcome. I'm glad you get to be a little bit distracted at work today. Her two of her most famous songs are Feeling Good and Don't Let Me Be Misunderstood. So, who was Nina Simone? Nina Simone was a gospel singer, a classically trained pianist, and became a very popular jazz singer as well as a civil rights activist, and ended up living out the end of her life in France because she refused to pay taxes. So many people didn't know really what a tortured soul Nina Simone was. Apparently, she had an abusive relationship with her husband and the father of her daughter, and they think later in life she was diagnosed with bipolar disease, but none of this was shared during her lifetime. And of course, this was at a time when no one was willing to talk about mental health, when things like this weren't shared publicly, where there wasn't certainly as much known about it. But behind the scenes, apparently, she was quite a volatile, angry personality at times. And yet, if you go and watch, which I highly encourage you to do, videos of her YouTube performances or wherever you love listening to music. I've been listening all morning long. It was hard to take her out of my ears this morning because her music is often very soulful and deep, and at times it's incredibly inspiring and uplifting. And I was thinking about this kind of tempestuous life this morning. And I pulled out lyrics from two of her songs, probably one of the best known. And then Michael Bublé also recorded a version of this that sort of brought the song back into popularity. Feeling good. And I love the imagery in this song. We could do a whole piece, and I might add some of the imagery: birds flying high, sun in the sky, fish in the sea, river running free, blossom on the tree, dragonflies, scent of the pine. It's a very, very visual song. Good morning, Crystal. Yes, I loved her before, and having spent the time to learn a little bit more about her, just really touched my heart and made me sad for the life, that she led, and yet so inspired by what she created in spite of the challenges that she experienced. When she graduated from high school and wanted to go be trained as a classical pianist, she wasn't accepted because she was black. And then she did get into Juilliard and ran out of money and had to quit midstream. But in maybe even because of that, she started playing in bars and clubs in New York, and quickly rose to fame because her style really was so unique. The way she blended classic and traditional and gospel and jazz, and just the richness of her voice is really magical. And I love this song, Don't Let Me Be Misunderstood. I've always loved this song. I love both of these songs. But this one really reminded me and felt reminiscent of the story of her life, right? She's like, I'm just a soul whose intentions are good. Oh Lord, please don't let me be misunderstood. Sometimes I'm carefree with joy, it's hard to hide. Other times it seems that all I ever have is worry. And then you're bound to see my other side. And she did not write this song, but I think it really captures that sentiment of feeling misunderstood that was true for her personally, but I think there's something we can all take away from this, that we definitely have those stories of being tortured souls ourselves. We have those stories of feeling good. We have those stories of feeling completely misunderstood, or showing people the not so nice side of our personality and the joyful side of our personality. We're human. Right? Now, don't you know I'm human? I got my faults just like anyone. And sometimes I lie awake alone, regretting some foolish thing, some sinful thing I've done. And I think that this, one of the sources of her popularity, other than just her off the charts talent, was her ability to really convey the just so much of these different emotions throughout her work. So I really want to honor and celebrate, all of who she was today. So I ended up with all of these beautiful portraits, picking this one because I felt like this is that it shows all of who she is, right? It sort of shows the depth of her soul. And I really loved, this was an album cover from the Montreux years. Good morning, Becky. And I really loved this playful background with the black and white portrait. Felt really fun. So I want to do something inspired like this. And I'm probably going to go walk to the other side of the studio and get my Posca markers. But I'm going to start with a painty background and then place her into that background and see where we get to. So that's where we're going this morning. Again, I love this look on her face in this picture that kind of shows it all. And here's our portrait of Georgia O'Keeffe yesterday. I did go back, and it doesn't show on the screen, lighten up her face some more. Can't say I'm, super happy with it, but I love just spending time with her and her story. And so I think part of the journey here is really that idea of spending time with these women, really honoring and celebrating them and seeing, how is my life like theirs, or how is it different? I did not struggle the way that Nina Simone did as a white woman, and I'm very present to that. And I celebrate her for staying so true to her dream on her own journey and path. So I want to celebrate all of that. And today, March 8th, is International Women's Day, and super excited to really celebrate Nina Simone on this International Day of the Woman that's celebrated like in 35 countries around the world. So I think the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and cut out this image and do a little fussy cutting here and get up nice and close. And then I'm going to trace her onto the page so I know, so I can do a little planning for the painting. And there are some absolutely amazing and inspiring portraits of her. There are some gorgeous album covers. You know, it was very tempting to almost just do kind of a old-fashioned scrapbook page with, you know, pictures of her from different eras of her life and all the beautiful different album covers. There's some gorgeous pop art that was painted and created of her. But this is a fun way, going to be a fun way to integrate collage into our painting practice to create those fun mixed media layers and be inspired by, right? Be inspired by this album cover and yet make it my own, right? So kind of that's where I'm going. And I'm kind of feeling somehow like I want to maybe bring in some collage elements or some hand-drawn elements from some of the visual imagery of feeling good. But this look really connected me to her song, Don't Let Me Be Misunderstood. All right, I have so much paper on my desk. And if you were here with me in my studio, we would probably be listening to Nina Simone in the background. While we painted. And I think about so many of the women artists, especially performers from this area, who helped pave the way for so many of the artists that came after them. And so I think it's always important to go back and really celebrate and honor these women. And again, also to look at what was the work they were doing, how and why does that work speak to us? What can we learn about our own art and creativity when I look at someone, women like Georgia O'Keeffe and Nina Simone? You know, one of the things that to me is most inspiring is their commitment to their craft. They never gave up in spite of both of them, you know, living, working, and creating in a time that certainly wasn't kind to people of color and to women. All right, I'm going to just grab a piece of paper here, stick that under there so my journal pages don't get stuck together. And I want to think about a color palette. I love the style of this, not quite my color palette. And again, I'm really wanting this to be something inspired by, but that feels more my own, even though I love all of the marks and lines. And when I think of that idea, the lyrics of Don't Let Me Be Misunderstood, what I'm feeling is contrast, right? And so when I think about contrasting color, we can think about opposite colors on the color wheel. So orange and blue are opposite colors on the color wheel, as are red and green. So we got some funky colors. Definitely needs a pop of yellow maybe to kind of pull all of this together. So if you look what I've got here, it's the primary colors plus a couple of secondary colors. So not a complex palette either, right? All right, so I'm going to just get some paint down on here and we're going to dive in and get that first layer in. And then I'm definitely going to go pop over to the other side of my studio where I left my big box of posca markers, because I think posca markers will be perfect for adding the details. So funny when you get things out of the tube, they look even brighter and happier. So you can't quite, there's my palette there. And so the colors take on life when you get them out of the tube. So don't always trust, what you're seeing when you're looking at paint in the tube. All right, that should be plenty of paint. And I'm looking for a small flat brush. Flat brushes tend to be my favorite, but these are also, smallish spaces, and I want to make sure. I was looking for one in particular. This one is like, I always tend to have a favorite until I overuse it and destroy the bristles. And I'm probably going to use that big one and that small one. Very interesting painting with acrylics on watercolor paper. It doesn't flow like it does on a nice mixed media paper, so I'm noticing I'm having to add a little bit extra water to get that color to kind of move on the page. And everything is just an opportunity to learn and experiment. I'm going to let that paint flow into the center here. It's going to get covered up, but I don't need to paint all the way to the center. I'm not going to worry too much about keeping all the lines super neat, because those can all get cleaned up when we come back in with some dramatic black outlines, which is one of my favorite practices anyway. And I can see adding maybe a few little pops of color to that portrait. Anybody else a Nina Simone fan? I know Crystal said she is, and actually Crystal Seeker, I don't know if Crystal is your name or if Crystal Seeker is your YouTube name. Do you have a favorite song by her? A favorite memory? We talked about yesterday with Georgia O'Keeffe. Like, I remember so clearly moments of seeing her art in person. All right, I might be getting a little carried away with the blue here, my favorite blue. And other things to write and journal and consider as we think about our own journey as artists. In your creative life, are there times and moments when you have felt misunderstood? All right, my water got so blue, my yellow is going to end up being kind of green there. And we're just going to go with it. I'm going to grab a different brush and get a little bit brighter yellow over here. There we go. That's better. So this is a filbert brush. It has a rounded tip, so it's not good for getting those really nice sharp lines, but it was small enough and at hand to get that on there. And yellows tend to be the most transparent of all the colors. So I'm going to get a little bit of extra yellow on there. I may even add a little bit of white over the top of this one and then paint it yellow again to make sure I get that vibrant, bright yellow. I'm feeling like The colors, I want them to be pretty true, vibrant colors. The album cover has kind of more muted colors. Good morning, Yvonne. And I can think about so many times in my life where I have felt misunderstood. If we focus on the lyrics of the song, Don't Be Misunderstood, when I have felt misunderstood or feel like I didn't belong or people didn't get me, right? That I've always been that little bit of that quirky, different outsider, or at least it's how I felt. Whether or not other people perceive me that way, it was how I often perceive myself. Yeah, I love that. I love her songs when I just feel like chilling out and painting. She just says it all to me sometimes. Feeling good is such a good one. Absolutely. All right, just getting some happy painty background on there. And do you ever just notice your paint water? Like right now, my paint water is an absolutely yummy, delicious color of green. Okay, let's see. Let's get some of this red down on here. Don't ask me why I started with the primary colors. I just picked the colors intuitively. I'm not trying to put them in any particular order. Again, I'm not trying to come in and copy what the album cover looks like, but be inspired by. It's a great way to really explore your own style. And my friend Andrea Shebelu does this so well and teaches this in her Under the Influence classes as part of her Watch, Learn, Play community. All right, I'm feeling this. Get some of this orange on here. And my own experience with the Georgia O'Keeffe portrait was interesting to watch my own feelings and reactions and not loving the outcome, not really being sure where to go next with it, and finally just making peace with where it was at and walking away, right? So sometimes we can create that feeling of I'm a failure when we're creating art, when it's not us, it's one piece of art, and every piece of art that we create teaches us something about our own style, our own process, and our own belief systems as well. All right, those are some pretty happy, vibrant colors there. We're going to get some green on the page, and then I'm going to get this nice and dry. And go find my posca markers. I meant to get them before we started. I think I want this green to be a little bit brighter. And of course I got distracted and forgot to pick them up. I'm also thinking I want to plant some of the lyrics on the page as well. I'll probably, put some of these other pictures of her in my journal, put some of the lyrics, but I can also you know, thinking about how can I incorporate some of the lyrics right here onto the page. And again, maybe some of that fun imagery as well. Okay, this feels like a good start. I love this. I'm going to be right back because I'm going to go grab my poscas. All right. I love Posca markers. I feel like they really kind of changed my art life because I do so much pattern drawing, mark making, zentangle inspired art on acrylics. And I have tried a variety of different brands. I like Liquitex the least, although they have some really fantastic colors. I recently tried some new ones by Tooli Art, Tooli, that I got on Amazon that were quite nice. And Posca has definitely started to expand their color palette, which I'm appreciative of. But people have given me paint markers or I bought them at resale stores. So I definitely have a lot of them. But one of my favorite blacks for drawing over the top of acrylics are actually these permapakes. This is a double-ended marker. I use these on large canvases a lot of times as well. And I know that I'm going to stick my hand in all of this paint. So while this is getting dry, I am going to find, what have I got here? Another journal, and just put this paint, because there's a lot of it in here, on some other journal pages that'll get painted up for something something a little bit later on, and then I'm less likely to drag my journal or my arm through my pile of paint there. This is a great way to get some paint down on a page so that when you start to work on a page, you have something to respond to. It's no longer a blank page. And I'm just going to put that on the floor to dry. And then I'm just going to take a piece of scrap paper. Everything has the opportunity to become collage fodder and not get wasted in this studio. In the studio. And I'm making a bigger mess, but I've got some really fun paint splotches there to get used for something else. Hola Blanca, great to see you here. Isn't it beautiful? Absolutely beautiful. I did not know it was written for her to sing either. I just know that it's one of the ones that's always included in her list of greatest hits. All right, I'm going to get this dry. And then I'm going to go ahead and collage her into the There we go. I clicked my button again. I must be sitting differently or moving around. Okay, can you hear me now? Hello, hello? Okay, so talk, 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 talk. Okay, um, weird. All right, so not sure what happened there. Hi, Vicky Venter. How lovely to see you here. Beautiful, beautiful. Great. Thank you, everybody. And sorry about that. I need to figure out where to put my microphone cord. We wanted good sound, so I'm wired in instead of wireless, which sometimes is the pain in the patootie. And this might show me where I need to come back with a little bit more paint. We'll see. We're going to get her all fixed up. All right, and I can see how I'm getting some of that red paint smearing where I thought it was dry and maybe it was still just a little bit damp, but everything is paint overable, my favorite mantra. I think I'm going to have t-shirts made that say everything is paint overable. I want to get some good coverage on her because I want to be able to always have her image be clear and vibrant and push paint back off of her if needed. All right, doing mixed media on art on watercolor paper is not. Okay, I should be back now. I don't think I'm hitting my microphone, but apparently I am. All right. And I have to have my husband figure out something like pin it up here on my shirt or hang it a little bit differently so it's not between me and the table. I think it's because I haven't had enough coffee yet this morning. All right, I'm going to get this super, super dry and then we're going to come in with some of our mark making. And I think I'm just going to get some black paint or even I got a nice big chunky, and I'm thinking maybe some lyrics will go down here at the bottom of the page. Or somehow I'll make that a little bit more incorporated into the page. So the first thing I'm going to do is come in and just do some bold black lines. And you'll see what I mean by how it cleans up all of the edges between those lines and we start to get some really nice, neat lines. And on the album cover, she's wearing a crown, and there's a sun behind her head as well. And I do kind of like the crown image, so we might decide to add that. Just clean up some of these edges. All right, now I get to think about where do I want to go next? How do I want to break some of this up? Good morning, Lisa. I love Nina Simone as well. And again, thinking about incorporating marks, some other colors, some of the lyrics in here as well. Not going to be able to, do that with this big chunky pen, but maybe I will start with just some mark making on here and maybe coming in with a finer tip pen. This is a Uniball Air Micro. I use this one all the time. I love the way that it flows over the top of the acrylic paints. And I'm almost feeling like I want to come in and maybe break up some of these spaces, make them smaller. And then maybe we can come in with some of these words. And then just have some fun with some mark making. I think what I'm loving about this background, and maybe one of the reasons that I was drawn to this as my inspiration was, yeah, that total 70s retro feel for sure. But also, it's a little chaotic, it's a little busy. It kind of represents some of that tempestuousness of her life, the volatility, the movement, the change, and that just the sheer beautiful energy as well. And it's amazing what you can do with just color and a black pen. And as I'm drawing these wavy lines, they also kind of feel like the river that she talks about in the Feeling Good song. Definitely not Blanca. It's one of the things I absolutely love about this. It flows, it's a little shiny, and unlike a Sharpie marker, it does not smell at all. It does not have that heavy alcohol smell, and it's permanent. So they're great. They come in also a smaller fine tip version as well. I probably have one around here somewhere. So they come in a couple of nibs, but so this is has a bullet tip and a chisel tip. And again, it works really well over the top of other things, or I use this one a lot just for drawing, right? Just for drawing. All right. One of my favorite zentangle patterns is one called Tripoli, which is a series of triangles. Great for filling spaces like this, and then I can come back in and add some more color to those triangles and brighten up some of these spaces. I'm also looking at those big bold black lines, thinking about how I can break those up with some bright colors. Blanca, they're sold individually. You don't have to buy a package of them. If you look any local like a nice art supply store, like a Dick Blick or a Jerry's, I don't know what you have near you. I don't know that they sell them like at Michael's. Definitely they have them on Amazon. And yes, I hadn't thought about that, but maybe that's one of the other reasons I love them so much is because they don't smell. And then, of course, we can never have too many orbs and circles. Different shapes and sizes. Noticing I could have a little more blue in there. I don't know, I'm feeling that sort of combination of flowy lines and choppy lines. And I'm definitely thinking I want a little birdie sitting here, and also thinking some butterflies floating around on the page. I have lots of butterfly stickers, so I'll have to dig those up afterwards and show the final result of this. I definitely won't finish this one in an hour, but that is okay. All right, so let's get back to maybe some more lyrics. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for me. I love it. So I was one of those kids. I was born in 1965, right on the edge between, like, I was like the first year of being a Gen Xer, and so I was still pretty young with all the 70s stuff. My dad was a fighter pilot in Vietnam. So I didn't know about so much of the music and the culture and the history of that era until I was definitely older. And it would be interesting to look chronologically at when she was recording these songs. How did they align with some of the things that were happening in her life? And how, much was happening in the world in the 60s and 70s. But she was active. Like Georgia O'Keeffe, she lived a really long and full life. And I have so much admiration for artists that never stop. Like, I think about you were born in 1959 and went on peace marches as a kid. That's amazing, Cindy. Nobody in my family growing up in South Texas was going on peace marches or even having conversations that those things were happening. And I love when we look at the life of people like Nina Simone and what was happening in her lifetime and how much that informed her artwork. I think there was a part of me that always wish I had been born, a decade earlier. I totally would have been one of those hippies with a lot of wanderlust. So again, I'm just having some fun with, some zentangle patterns, just some mark making. So a little bit retro 70s, a little bit Minette in the 2020s. But I've always been drawn to that style of play, loving blending in the words of the song. And I think what's going to go down here is just her name and the dates of her life, which I'm not remembering the exact years right now. And I want to vary up maybe some of the lines and the marks and the just the create that sense of visual interest on the page. Yeah, definitely feeling a bird on her shoulder here and some butterfly or flower added with collage up here, bring in even just a little bit more of that feeling of the song. I'm feeling good, even though I love the intensity of her gaze and that don't let me be misunderstood. And I'm thinking. I'm looking at the lyrics. I'm looking at this one for just a little mark making. I love, they varied the width of the lines, and I wish maybe I'd done that a little bit more, but it is not too late to do some of that. And I do kind of like those bold black diamonds. So let's get some of those diamonds in there. And then I want to not have all of these lines be quite so straight. So I'm going to come in again and maybe just break some of these up a little bit and maybe even get some smaller lines happening in here. Like this one definitely feels like it could be broken up a little bit. How about some big bold black dots? What I love about that is then I can come in with more color layered over the top of those as well. And I'm using both ends of the permapaque to just create patterns and add to the page here. And I love that it is International Women's Day today, and I get to spend the day with so many women. I'm so excited. Not by a plan because of International Women's Day, but because I have two of my favorite networking groups both meet today. They just happen to fall on the same day. Wasn't necessarily planned. I love a chisel tip because you can get some finer lines with that chisel tip right on the very corner of that, get some variety. Okay, it is coming together, loving where it's going. Want to get some more of the lyrics in here. And I'm reading this and it stars when you shine, you know how I feel. So I'm going to come over here and make sure we get some stars in our background. Really be inspired by her lyrics. And I would say today I'm feeling good, right? And then there's days when I'm not wanting to be misunderstood. So I think, just music has such power to move us, to make us feel, to remind us to check in and really feel our emotions. And when we talk about the magic of a voice like Nina Simone's that can take us on such a journey with not with the words, but also just with the tone, the timbre, the beauty of her voice. Let's see, there was another line on here I was looking at. And this old world is a new world and a bold world for me. Can you think about a moment in time when you felt that way, when you stepped out into something new, a new experience, a new job, a new relationship, and you had that feeling? It's like for me, walking outside, especially in Texas, like it would be dry and dusty, and then the rain would come through. And this was true when we lived in Santa Barbara as well. And the rain would come through and wash the dust away and clear up the air. And all of the sudden, it felt like a whole new world, a whole new day. Everything had been washed clean. Come in here and put a little crescent moon, which is a classic zentangle pattern. I love mark making like this over the top of painting. I can get lost for hours and days. And I haven't picked artist for next week yet, but the name that just popped into my head was Virginia Woolf. So maybe we will start next week with the writer Virginia Woolf. And I think I want to come in and do some intuitive collage a little bit differently with some of these portraits as well. Don't you know I'm human? I think we need to remind ourselves, right, that we are human. And sometimes we get it right, and sometimes we do things we're not so proud of. Almost want this to feel maybe like a string of beads here. I have so much fun with the mark making, sometimes I can get carried away and feel like I have to fill in every little nook and cranny, and I don't. I don't know what it is about the triangles, maybe the sharpness and the angles. And Nina Simone had a lot of mountains to climb, and she climbed them all. Maybe just some squares in here. It's amazing how much variety you can create with just basic shapes: circles, triangles, squares, diamonds, lines, dots. All right, so it feels like this is still just the beginning layers, and the fun part is going to be coming back and adding some more vibrant colors. Bye, Blanca. Have a great day. So I'm going to stick around for a few more minutes. My goal is always to make these an hour long, but it feels like I'm going to linger. I don't have any early meetings this morning, so I can linger for a few more minutes. And then the final touches again will be definitely some collaged elements of birds and butterflies, a dragonfly just right over the top of all of this. One of the things I love best about poscas, even though they're by Judy, even though they're pricier than some of the other markers, is they do last a long time and they have great opacity, right? Some of them end up being too watery. So I'm just coming in with the same lines, the same marks. Just gonna jazz this up a little bit. Lots of dots. Not being too precious with any of it. But just wanting to come in and brighten up some of these colors, break up some of the, oh, I missed a spot right there. Break up some of these dark black lines with a little more texture. And to me, this is meditation and play, but it's also just a way to really honor and celebrate this amazing artist today on International Women's Day. I don't know why I'm really loving this pink and wanting to bring in lots of pink. Some more yellow going in here. You too, Judy. So I will be here tomorrow morning, and Fridays right now are all about my 100-day project. So I'll be sharing my progress and my thoughts and working on some of the illustrations for my book. Specifically tomorrow, I need to work on sample pages for my 6 Keys of a Creative Renaissance, which Bonnie, you've been deep into that all this week. So we'll be doing some back to our sketchnoting practice tomorrow. And then Monday is Make Monday Morning Sacred with our mandala coloring. And then on Tuesday we'll do some Virginia Woolf. And if you haven't bought our list of 50 women prompts, it's just so juicy, and my son did such a good job. There is so many women there to celebrate and admire. Thank you, Bonnie. I love watching you go through the experience, and you contribute so much. See if I have a smaller tip red. Oh, that one's brand new. Let's see. And those permapaste pens that I was using, they do come in other colors. Let's see. And I need to bring them downstairs and show you guys, but one of my art friends online bought some. They're like paint markers. They're made by Sharpie. They are not smelly, but I got a set of the brush tips to play with, and I'm really loving coloring with them. So I'll remember to bring those down there upstairs and share those with you too. They would probably be good for this as well, and I'm curious to see how I've just played with them on paper, but how they might go over the top of magazine images. All right, what this needs is some white to brighten it up a bit. And then I'm going to be done for now, let it sit, and I'm going to take some time to go on a hunt for some collage imagery to add to it, and I will make a little short probably about adding up those finishing touches, which might not happen to the weekend. There's so many beautiful images of Nina Simone. I had that thought that I could do Nina herself for a whole month. All right. My favorite white paint pen is actually a, oh, thank you, Yvonne, me too. My favorite white paint pen is a Molotow marker. They are the most expensive, but they definitely have the best, most opaque white. Sometimes with the poscas you can see they're transparent. They pick up the color that's underneath, and it takes a couple of tries and a couple of layers. That one just needed to get mixed up a little bit and get going. Now it's working great. So don't forget to shake, shake, shake your Posca markers. Again, you can see how that white from a creative perspective just really makes the whole thing pop. Adds some much needed light and contrast. And I need one more something something there, and I'm not sure what that is, so I'm just going to let it sit. Oh yeah, it needs some muka. I don't have any muka in here, which is one of my favorite patterns, so we need, I think, something a little growing in here. Little viney shape in there. There we go. All right, so it still needs a little more work, but I think it's at a good stopping place for now, and I can feel myself starting to rush, and I don't want to rush her. She deserves my time and attention. Make sure we get all those edges. So you can see I've got some edges sticking up, so I'm going to get all those edges glued down, find a few collage elements, and finish her up a little bit later in the day. But I'm going to come down here. And I'll go look up her dates of birth and add those to the page as well. Being a lefty, of course, I just dragged my hand through the paint. All right, I'm going to pause there for now. As always, thank you so much for joining me live. Thank you for those of you that are catching the replay. I love starting my mornings with all of you. Happy International Women's Day. And it's really helpful if you will click like on the video if you like what I shared here, and let your friends know about painting in your PJs with Minette as well, so we can continue to keep this channel going and growing. I appreciate you all. Have an amazing rest of your day. And I will see you guys all bright and early tomorrow morning with some sketchnoting. So I will just be using a journal and a black pen and some markers tomorrow. Have a beautiful day, everybody. Bye bye.